Hi guys, and welcome to Reading Bliss, where I talk about my passion for reading and for knitting. My name's Maria. You can find me on Ravelry as Kiwi Ria and on Goodreads as Maria M. Right, so last week I talked to you about the readathon and how I was getting ready to do that. I did really well this year, I think. The final totals were 6 books, 1,493 pages, and I read for a total of 12 out of the 24 hours. Personal best on all 3 accounts, so I'm really chuffed about that. My husband, when I told him about the 12-hour thing, went, "Psh, you can do better." But then he was getting after me whenever he saw me doing something other than reading, until I explained to him about the reading challenges or keeping my progress report updated and just checking out other people's blogs. Because that's really the best thing about the readathon. It's taking a solitary event and making it into a social event. So of course I want to be on Twitter and do all these social things. I don't really understand Twitter, but it's perfect for the readathon. And I kept getting sidetracked by having all these Twitter conversations with the other Danes, especially during the later hours of the night, where it was still relatively early in the US, so they weren't having problems yet. But I was getting past midnight, 2, 3 in the morning here, and my fellow Danes and I were ready to just crash. So it's a good thing to root on each other and try to motivate each other to stay awake. Which I also did until the latest I've ever done. Stayed up until 3, and I'm not a night owl. And then I got up at 8:30 to start reading again. Yeah, I'm insane. My husband doesn't really understand this passion for reading. He's not a huge bookworm himself, but he copes with it. He just laughs at me a little bit because has a hobby that he's hugely interested in as well. He's a transporter, yeah. So he might not understand the reading thing precisely, but he does understand having a hobby that keeps you up to all hours of the night and the passion for it. So he deals with it. That's all good. I did have quite the book hangover Sunday though. I was so tired, which was interesting as we were going to my parents' place to celebrate a triple birthday. But my parents and my sisters are used to me. They know my passion for reading, so it's all good. And actually both my mom and one of my sisters, independently of each other, mentioned how cool it would be to join me for the readathon one year. The 3 of us sitting in my library here, and whenever they finished a book, they would just go up and get another one from one of my shelves. I thought that sounded awesome. I'd love to do that sometime. That particular sister does have 3 small kids though, the youngest being just 10 months. So it might be a couple of years before she's able to. But my mom might join me next year. We'll see. Which reminds me, next year, the April readathon is on April 26th. So I hope you'll join me. That's a lot of fun. Right, so after that, it did take me a while before I really got reading again. It actually wasn't until probably yesterday that I picked up a book again. Not counting the ones on my Kindle and my my audiobook. I always have one of each on the go for my commute. That doesn't count. That's just the way I roll. But I wasn't until yesterday that I really picked up a physical book. And that was because a book order I'd made at the book depository, finally shipping to Denmark, dropped in, and of course I had to start reading. Now the books I'd ordered were these 2 by Glenn Cooper, Book of Soul and his newest, The Keeper of the Library. I think this one has an alternate title, but I can't remember what it is, so I'll look it up in Goodreads and put it in the show notes. Anyway, the book 2 and 3 of the Will Piper series are brilliant series. I read book 1 ages ago and book 2 not shortly after, but book 3 only, I think it was actually published last year, but I didn't realize it until this year. Strange. No, published this year. Good. I wasn't quite as far out as I thought I was. So anyway, I really want to get reading that one, but since it's been a couple of years, I want to reread the entire series. So I've started on Library of the Dead, Danish. I do prefer to read books in their original language if I'm able to. So English or Danish, basically, that's it. But this was a present from my brother-in-law. I'm not going to go out and exchange it for an English book just because of that. Anyway, I've stayed in bed late this morning and I read 200 pages. So I'm missing 150 pages, should be able to finish it this weekend. And then I can get on to the next two. It's an awesome series about the true secret of Area 51. Brilliant, can't put it down. So, Glenn Cooper, Library of the Dead, highly recommendable. Alright, that's it for reading. Now, knitting. I don't have any finished objects for you this week. I did pass on the Botticelli blue to my sister last weekend on Sunday. I'd been a bit worried about that because I tried it on myself just prior to seaming it, and I wanted to check whether the neckline was too loose or too tight. That was alright, but it did not look good on me at all. Probably because it had bat wings, and bat wings do just not suit me. Anyways, I was a bit worried because this was the first time I'd knit a full sweater for one of my sisters, and I really wanted it to turn out well. So it was with some trepidation that I handed it over to her. She put it on, and I think I started jumping up and down. It looked perfect on her. Seriously, she looked so good in it. So, all good, definitely. Very happy about that. My other sister, who has pretty much the same build as the first one. Right, I have 3 sisters, so it's gonna get complicated. The sweater was made for the oldest sister, and the second oldest sister started making noises that she wanted one as well. Yeah, we'll see. It'll probably be a while before I want to attempt that task, because it had a lot of purling, and I'm such a slow purler. I might try to adapt it to knit in the round, but that would be weird around the sleeves. Anyway, I'm not discounting it. I might make it for her sometime in the future, or I might check whether she wants that specific sweater, or if it were the colour or the yarn, or she just wants a sweater in general. So I'm not discounting on knit something for her, but it probably won't be this year. That's not true, I will be knitting something for her, but that's something else entirely much smaller. Which brings me to my next point. Last week I mentioned that I might try out the National Knit a Sweater Month, the knitter's companion to NaKniSweMo. Yes, I know it's NaNoWriMo, but I am a huge fan of I Talk to Snakes, the channel on YouTube. She calls it NaNoWriMo, I call it NaNoWriMo. Anyways, I talked about that I wanted to do that, but it's not looking good at the moment. Just during this last week, I've cast on 2 new projects. Which brings my active WIPs, works in progress, to 5. Yeah, so the sweater thing, I really want to do it, but not this year. Which is okay. My main reason for setting myself that goal was because I wanted to push myself to finishing a sweater. Well, I've already finished 3 this year, and I'm in the process of 2 more. So I've fully fulfilled the spirit of the goal, even if I might not have fulfilled the letter of the goal. And that's always next year. We'll see. My main excuse for casting on something new is that I'm in need of a travelling object. I have about, depending on where I go, I have 20-30 minutes commute and train to and from work each day. And I really like to use that time sitting and knitting while listening to either podcasts or my audiobook. And none of the projects that I had, none of the VIPs that I was in the middle of, were really any good for train knitting, because they were either too bulky, which is not good, they have to fit my handbag, or they were too complicated. I don't want something where I have to sit and look at the pattern for every 5 stitches. It has to be something that's fairly mindless. Maybe I have to check the pattern every 2nd row or something. And I had nothing that was suitable. That's my excuse anyway. So I cast on new things. The first thing, the main travelling object, I'd actually already cast on last week, but I had forgotten to bring it to the computer, so I couldn't show you. It is the Honey Cowl from Ravelry. I haven't printed it out because the pattern is so easy. It just starts with, let's see if I can do this without dropping any stitches. Starts with just 4 knit rows, and then goes on to the honeycomb pattern, which is alternating a knit row with a purl 1, slip 1 purlized row. That gives this awesome pattern. It's staggered because there's an uneven number of stitches. Sorry, I don't know, you move it 1 each time to get the staggered effect. So this is about just over 1/8 of the way through, so it's going to be nice and thick. The yarn I'm using for it, you saw the green here, and here are the other colors, blue, purple and red. Love them, they look so good together. The yarn is Vinnie's Colors from Serena, which is 100% bamboo yarn, and it's hand dyed, South Africa. The proceeds goes to hang on, it doesn't actually say here, but it's hand dyed and rolled by women from an economically depressed rural area of South Africa, and the proceeds go to them. So, and it's the most soft and gorgeous yarn I've ever encountered. So this is going to be one terrific cow. I found this yarn in a local yarn shop near one of my friends, and they have it in 20 different colors or something. So originally my plan was to get one of each, yeah, right, and knit them up for an Afghan, something like that. But I couldn't find a pattern I really liked for the Afghan, and it was going to be incredibly expensive anyway. So I decided this is soft, I want it close to my face, so I'll make a cow. And it's the perfect traveling pattern. So that's all good. Next, I showed you this yarn last week. I accidentally called it the Esma sock from Posh Yarn. It's not, it's the Pamela sock from Posh Yarn. But it is the That Don't Impress Me Much colorway. My sister loved it, fortunately. This is the other sister. Not the one who got the sweater, but the one who asked for the other one. So this is the thing that I'm actually knitting for her at the moment. She wanted a pair of fingerless mitts. So I went on Ravelry and I found, hang on, this gorgeous pattern, which is simple enough to be a fast knit, but it has enough details to be interesting. It's the Garter Cable Wristlets by Fresco. I've gotten just past the first repeat of the pattern. Each wristlet is 4 repeats. This was an hour's work, so it's going pretty well. And I love the yarn. It's so soft and squishy. I've been knitting a lot with merino recently, and this is not merino, it's another wool, I forget which. But it's so squishy, especially the garter stitch. So I think these will be terrific wristlets once I finish them. I hope to finish the first one by next Saturday, which is when I see my sister next. That might not happen depending on how sidetracked I get, but we'll see. And finally, the last thing I need to cast on. This bag was made for me by my oldest sister. I asked her for a knitting bag, and she made me this. Awesome. Perfect to put in my handbag and take with me for my traveling VIP. Right, so this is a test net that I found on Ravelry. The pictures have been made public in the testing thread, so it should be okay for me to show you. It is this adorable baby sweater. There we go, with a Christmas tree! And it's in both a baby version and a toddler version. I'll be doing the baby version for my nephew, who's just 10 months old. And it's in just a non-beaded version and a beaded version. I'll be doing the non-beaded version because I've never actually knit with beads before. But what I'm thinking is I might use some of my embroidery thread to put in a bit of colour to make these Christmas ornaments anyway. I'll just knit it straight first and make up my mind afterwards. It's such a quick knit. I love knitting children's clothes because they're super fast. So I've upside down. I've just about finished the body. You can see the Christmas tree pattern coming out there. This yarn looks really grey on camera, but it's actually a deep fur green. It's beautiful, and it's 100% merino. I forget who it's by, and I don't actually have the label with me, but 100% merino in a DK weight. So quick knit, should be able to finish in a week or two. Lots of new objects. I have not knit anything on the wombat blanket at all, been too busy with these. I have knit a bit on the chocolate red sweater though, because I felt bad for not having touched it at all for 2 weeks, since I'm knitting it from a friend of mine. So, hang on. I have to make sure I don't drop the ball. Here we go. Last week I was at where the pin is, so I've gotten that done. Which doesn't look like much, but honestly I only knit this Friday evening, otherwise I didn't touch it at all since last week. So I think I'm doing pretty well. I need another 6 rows, and then I start closing in for the arm gap. So that's it for my knitting. Like I said, 4 active VIPs. I don't know what I'm doing. 5 active VIPs. I've got the wombat blanket. I might not have knit anything on it this past week, but I do intend to do so. Podcasts. I mentioned listening to podcasts on my commute. Actually, this is What Just Watching's fault. whatjustwatching.blogspot.com, I think. What Just Watching. If you Google it, you'll find this girl who does video podcasts. Lots of fun. She puts them up every Wednesday. It's about half an hour show where she shows off all her knitting and all that she's bought, and it's fun. I'm getting totally addicted to it. Anyway, she mentioned knit.fm, a new podcast, which inspired me to go online and check for knitting podcasts. I found 4 that I'm currently listening to. There's the Knit and the Wit, Knit Pro, Never Not Knitting, and Knit FM. So far, Knit FM is my favourite, which is perhaps not totally fair to say, since each of them, I've only listened to 1 episode from each of them. But Knit.fm is just the one that's most relevant for me, I guess. The first episode was about gauge and why it's important and how to get it. And the second episode, which I just discovered today, has been downloaded, I haven't listened to it yet, is sweater construction. So 49 minutes about sweater construction. And since I love knitting sweaters, as you've seen, I'm really looking forward to listening to that. So I might get out my knitting and listen to this while I knit. The others are alright. I haven't decided whether I want to keep listening to them or not, but I really like podcasts. I like the podcasts where they sound enthusiastic about their knitting, which not all of these do, but I'd love to hear about your favourite knitting podcasts. So leave me a comment and let me know what I should check out. One last thing, since last week I discovered Evernote. I've been using it for free since 2010 or something, but I just recently discovered that it's brilliant for sorting out all those patterns you have that might not be on Ravelry, because I've been purchasing a bunch of digital editions of Simply Knitting or The Knitter or all these knitting magazines that are out there, and I found it difficult to figure out how to organize those in Ravelry. I know they have them, but their way of structuring it just didn't work for me. So, Evernote, I can take screenshots with my iPhone or my iPad and store them as notes in my Evernote. I don't know why I hadn't thought of that before, because it works perfectly. So I ended up actually purchasing the premium Evernote, at least for a year, just to check it out. And I'm hugely satisfied with that so far. So I'm getting all my patterns organized, all my needles organized, so I actually have an offline list of inventory, both my needles, my hooks and my stash. So I can bring that with me when we go off to London, because obviously there I won't be able to actually go online on my iPhone and check out Ravelry. Too expensive with the roaming charges, but I'll just have it in my Evernote instead. So I've been playing around with that for the past couple of days. Really happy with how it's turning out. I'll be scanning some of my old patterns as well that are too old or too obscure, too Danish to be a Ravelry at all. so I'll get those into Evernote as well. And I'm happy about. I'm really happy with this. It's geeky, but it's fun. So that's it for me this week. I might not return next week because I'll be babysitting my 3-year-old niece. She's a bit of a handful, but she's adorable, so I'm really looking forward to that. But I'll see you later. Thanks for joining me. Bye.